I'm Mosdog, and I have just realised that I'm on the way out of at least 2 years of depression. And I'd like to share some of that journey with you because I feel like a lot of people are or have been going through depression, especially lately, and I feel like the more information that's out there about how other people have experienced it and how other people have dealt with it can only be helpful for others. So um, so at the moment I feel good, on the whole good. I still have days where I wake up and I'm just like, what the hell is this, where am I going, what am I doing? But it's way better than waking up every day and feeling like this is shit. I wish I hadn't have woken up, which were most of my mornings. It's taken a connection with an old friend, really, and a safe space where I have very little pressure to get me to this point. I think that in order to cope and to evolve from being depressed to being on the path to recovery, and then recovery starts with an environment in which one can do that. And if we're surrounded by the same problems that have made us depressed, because depression, I believe, is a symptom of not living our lives right, not being happy with ourselves, and getting to the point where we no longer value ourselves because subconsciously we're telling ourselves, what the fuck are we doing, we're failing at everything. Why can't I do this? Why don't I do something about it? And so taking ourselves out of that situation really is so important. I mean, it's like rehab for drug use. They an addicted user needs to get out of the addictive cycle enabling situation in order to break that cycle. So with depression, we need to get ourselves out of it. I realise now that I didn't realise I was depressed, even though I was waking up every morning and feeling like I wanted to die, and even though I was very aware that I was being so negative to myself, I didn't actually look at it and say, well, I'm depressed. I kind of just thought, well, I'll get through this and hopefully I'll start feeling better. It's obviously just a bit of a low, and I just need to keep going. But of course that never happened, because my keeping going was doing the same things, going on the same steps, being in the same places, which made me more and more depressed. So that's the difficulty, I think, with depression, is realising that it is a stage in our life that requires a change, input, work. As I said, I was lucky because my situation changed. But I think that's one of the interesting things about depression. I think it's a symptom, as I said, from us wanting to change our situation. And what it does is it disengages us from our life, which then enables us to go into another situation, right? I mean, if we're engaged and trapped, so to speak, in our current situation, which is causing us depression, then we will never extrapolate ourselves from that and therefore be able to change and move forward. So depression is a really interesting one because it disconnects us. And you see, it's that disconnection that's required. it's a tool. It's a painful, terrible, terrible tool, but it's a tool that works. For me, it led me to distance myself from friends and family, not be able to get any work, not be able to stay in one place. Yeah, I feel completely lost and pointless and everything. And that basically meant that I was self-sabotaging all of my opportunities. But what it did do is it led me to the point where I had to ask for help because, up until 3 weeks ago, I was living in a tent, freezing cold, January in England, no prospects, hated myself, hated my life, couldn't stand the way I made situations with my family. I just felt like I was causing them stress and pain, and it wasn't worth it because they just kept on having to basically look after me. And so I just went on the streets again, and luckily I met a friend, and because I was in a situation where I had no ties or commitments, at that point I was then able to accept her offer of a place to stay. And that's where I've been for the last 2 weeks, and that's really it's been a turning point because I've seen that I was afraid. I was afraid of living a life that might cause pain to those close to me. And so the things I wanted to do, I felt like I was unable to do because, I felt like judgment was going to be cast on me, I was going to cause pain and everything like this. And then now I realise that I can start from the very bottom and I can rebuild my life any way I so choose. I think my biggest cause of depression is getting myself stuck in situations that I don't actually want to be in. And that comes from, I think, three things. First is not being able to tell my whole truth. Second is not being able to set up my own boundaries. And third is, as I say, being afraid of judgment and causing others pain. And myself pain, I suppose. Now, for the last 5 years, truth has not been too much of an issue with me. I always tell the truth. And that may sound really hard to believe, but I swear it's the easiest thing in the world. The longer that I've done it, the easier it becomes, and the more freeing it becomes, because I used to lie a lot. I was ashamed of some of the things I did, and those lies led to requiring more lies in order to keep the first lie hidden. And I don't know, it says truth shall set us free, and it's so true, because once I started telling the truth and realising that I was telling the truth, it meant that every decision I then made, everything I then did, I had to ask myself, will I be okay revealing this? And if the answer was no, then I shouldn't do it. Because if I'm always going to tell the truth and I have to reveal that, then it's going to be bad. And once I started, therefore, leading by the truth that I want to be able to tell, my life became so much easier because I never had to hide anything, because there was nothing to hide. So truth has been okay, but it's been boundaries. The other two, boundaries and causing other people pain and everything, and my own fears, that have been more difficult. So the boundary thing, I've been a people pleaser for a long, long time, and I know that a lot of other people are. And it's not a bad trait, but it has led me to situations that I didn't want to be in, and then it's actually caused more pain because I've had to break those situations and they've become somewhat entrenched. So my latest one was I was staying on a piece of land, squatting, and it was fantastic. Like, I was in nature in my tent, I loved it. Every day, finding water, scavenging for food, And anyway, I met some people and they needed help. One had just been evicted from his home, and I said, come and share this land with me, which was fine, but problems arose when he started to build his shack on the doorstep of my shack, literally a metre away. And we had like 50 square metres of land. There were a good 2 or 3 other plots, but I didn't say anything when he was, putting his foundations down. And I remember feeling to myself, oh God, I hope it doesn't go this way. I hope it'll be alright. And I missed my opportunity. I should have told him from the start, because, as I'm sure you'll probably guess, is 2 weeks into his building, I broke down and said to him, look, I can't do this. This is too much for me. You're too close. But by that time, he'd already spent 2 weeks putting the foundations in, so that upset him. And we had a confrontation over it. He was really good about it, and we discussed it, but it was still a confrontation, And then so he agreed to scale back his project and move it back, 2 or 3 meters, which was great, but to be honest, it still wasn't enough for me, really. But I didn't say anything, and in the end, we ended up having arguments. I no longer felt comfortable staying there. I didn't feel connected to nature because his shack was right there. It was, and I ended up losing what was a wonderful, wonderful place for me to stay. And incidentally, what ended up happening was because there was more than one of us there were 3 shacks, 2 shacks and a yurt there eventually. It got found out, so we all lost it. So the lesson is, boundaries, they may be hard to put down at first, but they need to be, because our boundaries are what we feel comfortable with. And if we don't put them down, we will feel uncomfortable. So truth, 1, who are you? What are your truths? What do you want? What do you want to say? Boundaries is another, again, that's linked to who we are, what makes us comfortable, what really, really do we want here. And the third is, fear of hurting others, fear of judgment. Well, sorry, but if I'm living a life in which I'm not happy, I'm going to be hurting others. I'm going to be hurting my parents and my family because they're worried about me, because I'm depressed. And I'm going to be hurting myself because I'm depressed. And I'm going to be hurting everyone around me because I'm depressed. So it's a tough one, because I want to please people and I want people to be happy, but unless I'm happy, they're not going to be happy. The best way to please people and to make other people that we care about happy is to be happy ourselves. And that comes from living our life in the way in which we want to live it. And if people can't deal with that, then that's negative to us. And we need to address that. I only need to speak with them and put boundaries down and say, this is how I'm living my life. You've got to accept that, or cut them loose, at least for a while. So those are the things that I've realised. And so now I have a room, for the next week, and then I'm on universal credit at the moment, but I've handed a few job applications in yesterday, like 3 of them. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I've realised that fear of the future was a massive thing that has been sabotaging my present. So I would apply for a job, or I would speak with someone about volunteer work or whatever, meet a girl, or think about a forward plan, and then I would process that plan in my head later on, or that night, or whatever, and I would just spiral that out of control, and I would just look in the future, and always I would doubt myself, and I would see flaws in these plans. There's a famous quote. It goes, if we worry about something, it goes like something like, why worry twice about something? So if something's a problem, then we worry about it. Like if it's there in our present as a problem, we need to deal with it. But if it's not there in our present as a problem, and it's in the future, and we're worrying about it, well, then we're worrying about it twice. Once before it's happened, and once when it happens, if it happens. The point is, we actually only need to worry about things when they're happening. You know, we are much more adept than we often give ourselves credit for at being able to deal with things, but we deal with things in the present, you know? Yeah, we can, you know, make contingency plans and stuff like that, but we cannot worry about things that don't yet exist. So, and I was massively worried about everything, and hence I didn't do anything. I was locked in self-sabotage and spirals of trying this and then backing off, and then trying this and then backing off, and so I just went round and round in circles. So I've learned that I am not in control of my life. I am not. You know, it's causality that's got me here. It's causality that gets everyone else everywhere. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I mean, even like now, in particularly, this moment in time is crazy. So many big things, massive changes happening. How can I, or any of us, predict the future? We can't. So I'm not putting my energies anymore into worrying about futures that may or may not come to pass. I remember the good points in my life, and they were always when I was like riding the wave of just going along and accepting things that were happening to me, and then I was open enough to take the opportunities that came my way. I didn't doubt them, I just went for them. Some of them didn't work, but it was okay, because then another one came along, or maybe it didn't for a while, but I didn't feel worried, I didn't stress. So yeah, turning that aspect off has been another great help. I'm in the same situation, I don't know what the fuck's happening, but at least I don't worry about it anymore. It's exciting, it's scary, but I'm no longer worried, and that's been lifting my depression. I think my depression was caused by a combination of all these things, but as I say, depression honestly is a symptom. And once we realise what is the cause of depression, and therefore the cause of the symptoms of depression, you know, we can start addressing them. But yeah, realising I was depressed again, that was one of the biggest steps. Actually saying to myself, yeah, I was depressed and now I'm coming out of it, has been really huge, because then I can be gentle with myself, and you know, I can be honest with other people. You know, I'm sorry about what was going on before I was depressed. You know, and everyone understands that, because depression is not illness. Depression is a state in our life, and everyone will get it, guaranteed. No matter what our circumstances, we will all get it. Buddha got it. It's what led him to become the Buddha. You know, he was depressed with his life as a prince, so he went out and meditated. That's what led him to change. So depression is a wonderful tool, because it makes us realise that we are not happy, but it's not the depression that is the cause. So take a breath, forgive yourself, and look beyond the depression for the reasons why. And then, you know, take it step by step. You're not alone. And good luck. Hope this helps.